start now. Hello, I'm host Derek. I'm here with Ken, who is leading the discussion with his excellent questionings of me. One thing I love about INFJs, nobody asks me questions better. They ask me questions hot, hard, and fast. Anyway, that notwithstanding, the question today,
Jesus.
the question today was about agency and truth and grammar, because we were talking about the question that I often ask people about, for typing purposes, whether truth is created or discovered. It's not a question that I evaluate their answer based on which of those two things they say, but rather on how they approach it. So then the question came, well, why is it, what would the answer be basically, or what are you talking about here? And the explanation is as follows, that we think of truth as being outside of ourselves because we can verify some kinds of truths through physical reference points. If I say I'm holding a lighter and it's clearly a lighter and there's no disputing it, there's no reason to dispute it, and there's not any clash over it, I'm telling the truth. If it's not, if you have reason to believe this could be a fake lighter or something like that, then it's quite plausible that you would challenge my claim that this is a lighter and say, no, you're telling a lie, or you're mistaken. Oh, you thought that was a lighter. It looks like a lighter, but it's actually a secret hider thing that you can hide weed in when you travel. It's a secret compartment inside. Okay, well, in that case, it's not a lighter, right?
Eric, you should.
Abraham, let me finish. You're going to have to just stop and let me finish. Now, the key point here is that there are two kinds of ways to have something not be true. One of them being that a person could be mistaken or wrong, and the other being that a person could be deceitful or lying. Another thing that a person could be is joking, or another thing a person could be is engaged in a metaphor. When I say silence is golden, I don't really mean silence is the color gold or made out of the freaking element gold. I mean it's valuable. It's of use. So there's lots of different ways in which people understand truth value to be squishy. However, when people make direct claims and assert them to be true and are presumed by contextual factors to be expressing things with a assurance of honesty, then in that case, if they're wrong, they're either wrong or they're lying, and there's a difference. The reason I keep hammering this point is because it's the existence of this difference that makes people think that whether or not something is true has to do with the state of the outside world. Whether or not this is a lighter has to do with whether it's actually a lighter. No, whether or not this is a lighter has to do with whether or not we can assume the normal things we can assume for the sake of argumentation we might be making or not. Whether or not this point comes into being as a point of clash, a point of argumentation, or not. The statement, this is a lighter, never occurs in a vacuum. Nobody just walks up to you and says, this is a lighter. And you go, aha, finally, one of those true, pure statements that we can evaluate on its truth value alone without having to consider the context, the person saying it, or why it's being said. Now, when I say this is a lighter, in this context, it may be a true statement, but the statement exists solely for the purpose of demonstrating that statements can be true. Under no natural circumstances would I say that to anybody. Things that aren't in any dispute normally don't get said. So, or they get said for agreement. You know, like, yeah, we agree on this. Is about something that's in dispute. If it weren't disputed by somebody, there couldn't be agreement about it. It would just be an assumption. So that's what I'm talking about, agency being inherently necessary to understanding truth, because it's a three-legged stool. There's the physical referent, there's the issue of consensus amongst people, and lastly, there's the issue of intentionality, whether you're trying to be honest or dishonest. And these three components combine to make it such that truth, which necessarily is a language thing, it's a function of grammar, because we can't talk about any truth or point to any truth or any kind of anything about any truth without using some sort of symbolic representation Otherwise, it's irredeemably fluid.
This ESFJ has a question.
Good job, Abraham. That's good FE and that's good TI. I'm impressed.
This is my question is, at what point does an individual start to think about and see these things these ways? How or like?
Okay, well, I mean, the thing is, I think it depends on the type. NTPs are most likely types to think about this stuff. I don't actually think ENTPs are. I think INTPs are. For some reason, I tended to be more INTP in my taste of shit, but not in my display. I mean, not in my cognitive functions. I just have kind of INTP taste in abstraction. So does Not Host Mark, although he's more on the faith paradigm. He engages with the ideas like an INTP does in general, even though he's an ENTP. A lot of ENTPs are more, they display more creative, less TI. You know.
So how do we what sort of advice do you have for the not NT types in terms of thinking through things on a deeper level?
Well, I'd say start with your relationships and assess what you're seeing in your partners through the metrics of TE, TI, FE, and FI, the judging functions. You know, understand those things are pretty simple things. TI is why, TE is how, FE is bling, and FI is butthurt.
That's a very easy way to put it.
Okay, so I'll repeat it. TEY, TE how, FE bling, FI butthurt. If you note the amount of each of those four things in people, you can learn a lot about them and understand their type pretty well, probably get a good guess on their type if you just kind of look at the ratios of those things. It's not just butthurt though, it's like, well, look, here's a question I ask people in a relationship to determine if their significant other is FE or FI without ever meeting them, and so far it's proved a pretty effective trick. You ask them, is your significant other more likely to gaze lovingly at you or to check to make sure you're happy? It's a simple question, and it'll tell you whether somebody's girlfriend or boyfriend is FI or FE. If they gaze lovingly at them, oh my gosh. I absolutely love you. I love you. If they're like that, then they're FI. If they're like this,
that's grade AFE.
Is something wrong? Are you okay? Is everything cool? Then they're like third slot FE. If they're like Ken would be like, Eric, I've noticed lately we've been a little bit less gay with each other.
Yeah.
I wonder if you think that has something to do with my polar TE. And I'd go, is this your way of saying, is something wrong? You know?
Well, I mean...
And then, but then like FE Dom, like you're adjusting on the fly. You're reading it real time. You're prioritizing physical FE, real time FE, because you're deft enough in it to work in it in a process mode, even though it's a judging function. Which means you don't prioritize perception management in general over time as much as, say, a ENFJ would, but you still prioritize it. It's a weird phenomenon I see in the ISFJ. She's good at FE in the moment, but she doesn't really care about perception management that much, except risk-averse perception management. She doesn't want anybody to think negatively of her. This is the problem what happens when people get FE really high up in the stack. They don't like having people not like them. That's their worst thing that can happen to them is, oh no, Joe's mad at me right now. Well, fuck Joe, says Eric. And Abraham's like, what? Joe, let's, I'm a little hurt right now, Joe. And I'm like, listen, Joe, this is my foot. It's going straight up your ass. This is the difference between third slot FE and first slot FE, right? So,
well, I think I'm on a good path right now. Susan has recommended a very good book, so I plan to become more familiar with these terms and stuff.
Abraham, listen to me, Abraham. You have found the self-optimization engine called Talking with Famous People. I have no doubt you're already 12% better than you were 3 weeks ago, and I have no doubt by the time you're done here, you'll be 40,000% improved.
Yeah.
It's a lot of percentages.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any other comments on this exciting topic here that we were making a video about whatever it was Abraham asked me about and we were just talking about?
I think it was Ken that asked him.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Ken
I'm still... Yeah, I'm still kind of hazy on it, and it's something I'll just have to understand with time more.
Abraham, shush! I'm listening to Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abraham.
Ken, go ahead.
There's a comment I was wanting to make about. There was a comment I had said to Mark a while back. It was like the other night. I was talking about how we use the word strength when it comes to functions a lot, and I think it's probably not a particularly great word to use in terms of positioning and whatnot. And in addition to that, I keep getting distracted because Josh is really bumming me out. But are you still recording, by the way?
Yeah, he's fine. What's wrong with him? He's drunk?
He like passed out while you were recording. You're like in the middle of a monologue, and I kept looking over, checking to make sure he didn't like hit his head on something.
I agree with what you said about the FE stuff in terms of like how you were explaining how it's how it plays in different slots and stuff. Because I do agree with how you say Ken is in terms of the time it takes for him to react about something that is related to people's feelings, like especially like amongst a group and stuff.
Because he's prioritizing metaphysical FE, perception management over time, because of his NI. The NI combination with FE means you prioritize FE's metaphysical aspect, or FE in the third slot means you prioritize his metaphysical aspect because you don't have enough attention to process it in real time. Same with fourth slot. Fourth slot, of course, they just do risk aversion. They don't process it even really across time very much, except insofar as they understand the potential. They don't understand. Fourth slot FE people don't understand how they can recover from shit or how they can turn shit. They just understand that that's going to make them look bad, and then they just leave it at that. They don't think, well, but how am I going to play it then, Yeah. So that's the difference between third and fourth slot. But the only people who really do FE real time are those for whom it's their dominant function, or I think ISFJ, at least Kimberly does, because I think the difference is paired with SI is a much more real-time epistemology than NI, which is very much about extending backwards and forwards across time. The habituation that happens with SI, I've determined, is just that. It's habituation. They're not orderly. They're just habituated to cleaning up and shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about. I don't know what it is about Ken, but Ken and I definitely get along really, really well. Like There's something about, especially in terms of the time reaction it takes for him to respond to something related to a problem with somebody's feelings. Sometimes, kind of gives me the courage to speak out about it as well. Because there's sometimes where I completely ignore my FE.
Well, look, here's the thing, Abraham. This is what Ken does that is seriously impressive. He kills it with the FE because he's actively managing the balance of being abrasive. So, in other words, he knows he doesn't want his dessert to be too sweet. So he intentionally puts a little bit of vinegar periodically in various places. And he knows when he does give somebody something sweet, he wants it to be on the right palate so that the person is distanced from previous praise moments and such that the person values it more highly. And then on the third vector, he chooses his particular form of praise, he individuates it to the person, and makes sure that it's praise that is engaging as well. It's sort of accidentally praiseful by engaging the thing that the person wants to be praised about, or something like that. It's complicated. He must spend a lot of time dealing with it. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Now, hold on, Abraham. I want Ken to praise me about how accurately I assess the shit that he does.
You know what, Eric? I am so thankful that I was able to find this channel, all those months ago, because when you take the time to get into things like that and aspects related to me, it's just I really appreciate it.
Hey, well, you just made me come all over my computer. So thanks, Ken. I appreciate that too.
No problem.
I was feeling a little clogged up there. And thanks for watching Talking with Famous People.